Hello, and welcome back to Bible Wits Bible Corner. Today, we're going to be in the Old Testament. I'm going to be reading from Jeremiah chapter 19, verses 10 through 15, starting with the English Standard Version. Then you shall break the flask in the sight of the men who go with you, and shall you say to them, Thus says the Lord of hosts, so will I break this people and this city as one breaks a potter's vessel, so that it can never be mended. Men shall bury in Topheth, because there is no place else to bury. Thus will I do to this place, declares the Lord, and to its inhabitants, making this city like Topheth. The house of Jerusalem, or the houses of Jerusalem, and the houses of the kings of Judah, all the houses on whose roofs offerings have been offered to all the hosts of heaven, and drink offerings have been made, or have been poured out to other gods, shall be defiled like the place of Topheth. Then Jeremiah came from Topheth, where the Lord had sent him to prophesy, and he stood in the court of the Lord's house and said to all the people, Thus says the Lord of hosts, the God of Israel, Behold, I am bringing upon this city and upon it all its towns all the disaster I have promised against it, because they have stiffened their neck, refusing to hear my words. All right, now we're going to read the New Century Version. While the people with you are watching, break that jar. Then say this, the Lord All-Powerful says, I will break this nation and this city, just as someone breaks a clay jar that cannot be put back together again. The dead people will be buried here in Topheth, because there is no other place for them. This is what I will do to these people and to this place, says the Lord. I will make this city like Topheth. The houses in Jerusalem and the king's palaces will become as unclean as this place, Topheth, because the people worshipped gods on their roofs on the roofs of their houses. They worshipped the stars and burned incense to honor them, and gave drink offerings to gods. When Jeremiah left Topheth, where the Lord had sent him to prophesy, he went to the Lord's temple and stood in the courtyard and said to all the people, This is what the Lord All-Powerful, the God of Israel, says. I will soon bring disaster to Jerusalem and the villages around it, as I said I would. This will happen because the people are very stubborn and do not listen at all to what I say. Okay. We live in New Testament times. So why am I reading from one of the prophets? Well, a couple of reasons. We are given the Old Testament so that we can read about the literal history of this nation, not this nation, this world that God created and everything that's in it. And part of that history has to do with how the Israelites, or a huge part of that history has to do with how the Israelites lived, either serving God or being against God. Okay. So, Jeremiah breaks a clay pot. I was talking to one of my brothers about this the other day, and we were kind of saying, Jeremiah did a few things that were, I guess, strange would be the word that I could use here. Definitely not something that you would see done in today's world where people would actually pay attention to it. But the people back then paid attention to Jeremiah, at least to a point of they heard what he said. Whether they followed through or not, we don't. Or it's hard to say on every individual person. Breaking a clay pot was symbolizing Jerusalem and all the cities being scattered. And as it says, not being put back together. They would not ever come back together as one complete place. So there's always going to be fragments here, there, and everywhere, basically. Okay, so why is that important for us today? God promised punishment and destruction every time the Israelites disobeyed, and he always followed through with his punishment and destruction. He's promising another punishment and destruction. However, this time only he knows when it's going to happen. The end of the world. Only God knows when that's going to happen. So are we going to be stiff-necked? Are we going to be stubborn and ignore God? Or are we going to start following God? This video is a little bit longer than my usual videos. I apologize for that, but I wanted to get all of this in. I hope you find encouragement in this, and I hope you have a wonderful, God-centered day. Bye.